I'm attorney Tom Goolsby of the Goolsby Law Firm. We're looking at a head-on accident that occurred in Wilmington just before Christmas. Now, the accident was between Jeffrey Todd Davis and an Ebony Gaddis. It appears that Ms. Gaddis is the one that is at fault. We don't have a diagram. However, we have the North Carolina DMV 349 form. The officer didn't fill out the actual diagram on page 2 of the report that we typically see, but it's real easy to figure out from the accident report as to what occurred. There's even a witness. Now, as we start looking at the accident report, the first thing I always do is go through the minutia on there, and there is so much on these reports. North Carolina has really hammered this down well. We see, well, let me go over this with you first. Let's just look at, since we don't have a diagram, we're going to look at what Officer Savage wrote in his report. And we see that upon his arrival to the crash scene, he saw the vehicles on Holly Tree Road. That's a fairly well-traveled road in Wilmington near the Monkey Junction area. And he actually, while checking on the drivers, he had a witness come up and tell him that he saw the accident. He stated that vehicle 1, that was the vehicle that was actually driven by Ebony Gaddis. And again, it was a 2005 Mercedes passenger vehicle. And just so you know, Jeff Davis was driving a 2014 Kia passenger vehicle. Well, the witness tells the officer that he had seen Vehicle 1, which was the Gaddis vehicle, this appears to be the person that is at fault, traveling northwest on Holly Tree Road at a high rate of speed. That is not good. He stated Vehicle 1 drove over the double yellow line and into the opposite lane of traffic. Not good again. He stated that at the time Vehicle 2 was traveling southeast, that's in the opposite direction of Vehicle 1, that's Mr. Davis, stated Vehicle 1 crashed head-on into Vehicle 2 in front of the Molly Maid's business located at 4302 Holly Tree Road. Both drivers were taken by EMS to New Hanover Regional Medical Center. We'll get to what their injuries were in just a second. What's interesting is, so far, we see, and this is something I always look to, it's item 37 on accident reports, and that is whether or not there is suspected alcohol or drug use. It says it's unknown at this point. One reason it's unknown is that when the officer arrived at the hospital, the driver of Vehicle 2, Ms. Gaddis, was actually in surgery. Not only did she break her right ankle, but she lacerated her liver, and they were going in apparently trying to save her life. So they don't know that yet. Maybe so, maybe not. It is a strange accident in that high rate of speed and traveled over into another lane. There are going to be additional reports put forward by the officers. I see Officer Mark Anderson's involved, very thorough DWI crash investigator. He will, of course, be doing his work. Don't know if there's anything involved or not. The poor lady could have had a heart attack, could have had some kind of something else go on, not at all drug or alcohol related, but it's just something that I always pay attention to. Neither of the drivers had any restrictions on their licenses, so no kind of DWI restrictions or anything else there. It's always something that I very much note. The amount of damage estimated, pretty significant, $10,000 and $15,000. Those are usually low in incidents like this. Both vehicles were not drivable. I can only guess with a head-on collision at the speeds we're going to show you in just a second. Pretty much guaranteed these vehicles have been totaled out. I also like to look down at item 30 and item 33, whether injury was apparent. Item 32, I'm sorry, that's yes, injuries to both parties were very apparent to the officers. So again, not simply a walk-away kind of case. People are hurt. And then we also see on item 30, airbag deployment. The number 2 there means that airbags were deployed. So again, significant head-on collision. As we go to the second page, we see more information. Now this is interesting. The authorized speed limit was 35 miles an hour. The Gaddis vehicle, the officer suspects, was doing about 10 miles an hour or so over that, and the Davis vehicle within the speed limit. Also, the estimated speed on impact is scary. It appears that neither vehicle slowed down, meaning the Gaddis vehicle swerved over into the oncoming lane, and Mr. Davis was probably unable to do anything before, bam, the accident occurred and everything went sideways. When we look over here at vehicle maneuver or action, we see that both vehicles were traveling head-on, straight, and when we look at the crash sequence, that is actually item number 52. We see the number 27. That means probably the worst kind of collision you can typically be in. That is a head-on collision for both vehicles. Now, when we start looking at the injuries, we do see that both of the drivers were significantly injured. As we look at page 3 that we touched on before, we saw that the driver of the suspected at-fault vehicle, that's the person who's going to either get sued or have a claim collected against her insurance, appears to be Ms. Gaddis, appears to be at this point, according to what the witness said. And again, having a witness in this case is very helpful to Mr. Davis and his attorney or attorneys. And when we see what happened to Mr. Davis, we can see that he suffered a compound fracture of his right ankle. That is a bad fracture, my friends. Hopefully he'll be able to walk again. Probably had to have surgeries and pins, lots of pain and suffering, debilitation, lost wages claims, pain and suffering claims, surgical bills, all sorts of stuff. Probably has a good case and a lot of damages there if his case is handled right, of course. And he also had scrapes and cuts along his midsection to lower body. Again, scrapes, cuts, you might have long-term scarring and those types of things. Again, all this stuff hurts. Pain and suffering damages are collectible in North Carolina and are most times the largest portion of any claim, in addition to his surgery, in addition to his physical therapy, in addition to his lost wages, in addition to any scarring, other things. So again, you know, this is probably a good claim for Mr. Davis if it is handled right. Sorry he went through this right before the Christmas holidays, but it is something that happens in life, and you got to make sure you do everything you can to get yourself compensated for it. Of course, I'm attorney Thom Goolsby. Happy to go through these reports. Always find them interesting. I hope that they are helpful to you as you look at these and understand more about how these cases and fault can be determined and how we look at these things and go through them. As a trial attorney, of course, I have been doing this for many, many years, 25 plus years, and I've handled literally thousands of cases. Thanks so much. If you have questions, problems, concerns, you have an accident you find interesting and you would like me to review, all you have to do is email me, Thom@goolsbylaw.com. God bless. Take care.